Morey's Piers is a famous boardwalk park located in Wildwood, New Jersey. The park consists of 3 piers that are all on the Wildwood boardwalk. I recently got the chance to visit this park in August of 2020. I also got the chance to visit this park in 2015 as well, but I didn't ride that much. Today I will give my review of this seaside park and talk about my experience at the park. At the end of this video, I will talk about the safety procedures that were introduced for the park in 2020 and how well they were executed. Before we dive into this review, I'd like to give a shout out to Theme Park Inferno. If you want to see some good UK park content, then make sure to check them out using the link in the description. If you'd like to potentially earn a shout out, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and comment Morey's. I repeat, Morey's. Now let's hop into our first topic, which will be rides and attractions. So let's first talk about the rides and attractions on Adventure Pier. Adventure Pier probably has the least amount of rides out of any of the piers, but they have the most extreme rides that you find at this park for the most part. The highlight of this pier is Great White, the park's CCI wooden coaster that unfortunately is closed for the entirety of the 2020 season. I did get the chance to ride this coaster in 2015, and I remember it being a fairly fun but rough experience. I've heard that the park will be redoing this coaster with Gravity Group for the 2021 season by adding new trains and a potential retrack. This pier also has a big slingshot next to the water and a skyscraper attraction. They also have their S&S Scream and Swing, which I'm not 100% sure that I rode in 2015, but I have ridden identical rides and I can say these are great rides. They also have some go-karts and a fun house. Adventure Pier is definitely the most extreme pier when running at full capacity. The next pier is Mariner's Pier. Mariner's Pier has the most rides out of any of the piers. It definitely is the best pier for families. If you have kids, this is probably where you spend the majority of your time. Some of the main features of this pier are Sea Serpent, the park's Vekoma Boomerang, which unfortunately was closed when I went. They also have a big Ferris wheel on this pier, which has a great lighting package, like most of the rides at this park. They also have a ride called Ghost Ship, which is a year-round haunt, which I've heard great things about, but I was bummed that this was closed as well. They have a few scenic rides that'll take you around the pier as well. They have 2 more coasters with Rolly's Coaster, which is a Pinfari Zyklon, and the final coaster on this pier is their SBF Visa called Wild Wizard. They have a dark ride with the Pirates of the Wildwoods. They also have a bunch of classic flat rides like a Music Express, Wave Swinger, and a pirate ship. The final pier of the 3 is Surfside Pier, which is my personal favorite pier. They have 3 coasters, the biggest one being Great Nor'easter, which is the remodeled Vekoma SLC. They have Runaway Tram, which is their Zero family coaster, which was a nice surprise. They also have Doo-Wopper, which is a Forceful Wild Mouse themed to a fast food restaurant. They also have a great claw ride that gives insane airtime called It, which is actually related to the movie It. They have an amazing Larson drop tower called Atmosphere, which gives some scary airtime and has some decent theming. Zoom Flume, which is an awesome log flume ride that features 2 drops and some fun theming. Kong is a really cool set of flyers as well. They also have a classic dark ride called Dante's Dungeon that was also closed during my visit. In my opinion, Surfside Pier is the most well-rounded pier out of all of them that gives a healthy mix of family and thrill rides. Overall, Morey's Piers is a great lineup of attractions for a boardwalk park. The park has so many great rides for families and a few cool thrill rides. It's definitely a family-based park. If this park was not a boardwalk park, you'd have an average lineup of attractions, but I know if this family had some land to work with, they would put some great rides in, as they already have turned some bad rides like Great Nor'easter into fun experiences. Next, we will be talking about the structure of the park. The way the park is set up. I usually don't include these, but this park is structured so differently than most parks, so I'd like to explain it a little bit. So obviously, with this park being a boardwalk park that stretches out into the ocean, they are very limited on space. They pack in many rides on 3 little piers. It's pretty incredible, especially on Mariner's Pier, which is just crazy. So with this being the case, most of the rides don't have queue lines. This is fine because they don't really need them because the crowds aren't too bad here. From my experience, there's only one ride that requires lockers, which is Great Nor'easter, but fortunately, those lockers are free with your ticket card or wristband. The system is very similar to Universal's and I love it. They have bins on all the other rides, or they just let you leave your loose articles on the ride platform. Now, since we're talking about structure, let's talk about their ticket system and prices. So the way Morey's Piers works is that you can walk into the park for free and pay if you want to ride the rides. They have a pay-per-ride system where they give you a card and put your tickets on there, or you can get a wristband for all the rides. Now, unfortunately, wristbands that were not pre-purchased will not be able to be used in 2020. However, a season pass does get you an automatic wristband regardless of the year. They also run some deals for certain years, so keep an eye out for those as well. A normal ticket package will run you between 90 cents and $1.10 per ticket. That doesn't sound too bad, but since most of the thrill rides will cost you about 9 tickets, it'll really end up making you pay about $10 per ride. Some of the family coasters will cost about $7 as well, but that's still a lot of money for a family coaster. A season pass will usually run you around $400, at least from what I've heard. For those just wanting the credits, for 2020, all the credits run you around $65 when Sea Serpent opens, and with Great White Open, you're well above $70. My recommendation is to get the wristband because it'll usually run you about $60 to $70 and you get unlimited rides. So if that's available, that'll probably be your best option. If you can't get the wristband, then you'll probably have to fork over a lot of money. The prices are probably the biggest downside of Morey's Piers overall. Next, I quickly want to talk about the location of this park. This park is located on the Wildwood boardwalk, which is at the southern tip of New Jersey. The park is about 2 hours from Six Flags Great Adventure, 40 minutes from Playland's Castaway Cove, and an hour and a half away from Seaside Heights and Casino Pier. It's about an hour and a half from Philly. Morey's Piers is in a solid location, however, you will probably have to go out of your way to get to this park. Park atmosphere and appearance. Morey's Piers is a great atmosphere. The park is always very alive. They stay open until about 11 or 12 most days, so they really are a nighttime park. The light package on some of these rides is terrific. Morey's Piers is one of the best nighttime parks I've ever been to. The park is also very clean. Everything about it has a nice vibe and is very pleasing to the eye. The park just looks nice. I'd really say this park has an atmosphere and the level of a Cedar Fair park, which is really good in my opinion. Also, some of the rides here have some decent theming. The rides that don't have any theming at least look really nice aesthetically. There's quite a bit of theming around the park, which really impressed me for them being a boardwalk park. Operations and employees. The operations here weren't that great, but there's a good reason for that. If you take away the time they spent cleaning the rides, the operations were pretty good for the coasters at least. The park also has 2 trains on Great White and Great Nor'easter, and they will run both of them as well. This year, Nor'easter's second train wasn't assembled, which is understandable given the tough circumstances. Now let's talk about the employees. This is the part about Morey's Piers that just really blew me away. This park has some of the best employees I've ever seen. They are nice, helpful, and they just want to make sure you had the best day possible. Every time I went to the park and rode a ride, they would always just look at me and say, "Enjoy your ride." Now, that might seem small, but it really makes a huge difference when you go to other parks and don't have the best experiences with the employees. Before we talk about their COVID-19 procedures, I like to talk about their water parks quickly. Morey's Piers has 2 water parks, one called Raging Waters and the other called Ocean Oasis. Unfortunately, Ocean Oasis is closed for 2020, and I did not get the chance to do either of them this time around, but I did do them in 2015. The water parks are a gated price, unlike the rides. These water parks are so compact and they pack so many slides into a small area. They have lots of slides that interact with their surroundings, and they made for some really cool interactions. They have mostly basic slides, but they still make for a fun time. These water parks are really unique, and if you get the chance or have the extra time to do them, I definitely give them a shot. Now let's talk about the COVID procedures at the park. Like most parks, they require masks, but a lot of parks don't enforce that policy very well. However, I found that at Morey's Piers, the mask policy was being enforced very well by the park, and most guests were very compliant with the rules. This is pretty crazy considering at the boardwalk, almost nobody wears their masks outside the park. Social distancing was not the best, but the park did all they could to promote it with signs everywhere, spacing out rows on coasters, and a lot of stuff like that. They kept limited capacity inside the piers. The way they made sure of this was by only allowing people through one entrance to the park so to ensure that the pier did not hit capacity. The piers were generally pretty solid when it came to social distancing in terms of effort. The queue lines weren't great for social distancing, but almost every park I've been to has had that problem. And for those wondering how the lines were, I didn't really wait any more than 15 minutes for any of the rides at Morey's Piers, even with the slowed down operation times. So lines aren't really too much of a problem. I did go on a weekday, but I don't really think the weekends would be that much more crowded just by the way how Wildwood is run and how many people go to the parks. For those wondering, they clean the rides after every cycle. This slowed down operations will probably help some people feel more comfortable in the park. Also, they made sure that every guest used sanitizer before every ride. Their sanitizer was actually very good. It absorbed in your hand really quickly so you didn't have to rub it around or anything like that. Overall, I give Morey's Piers' COVID procedures a thumbs up. Out of the 5 parks I've been to, they were probably the safest park and made safety their highest priority. Overall, Morey's Piers gives one of the best experiences I've ever had at a park. They are my personal favorite boardwalk park. I really like being at this park, and that is why I decided to make a visit every single day of my trip. The park is very expensive, but it's worth the money. They don't have the best collection of rides, but they make the most of what they have. They do everything right that they can control, which is awesome. I highly recommend coming to this park someday, whether that be this year or any other year. Make sure you put this park on your bucket list. If you visit here, you won't regret it. Those are my thoughts on Morey's Piers in Wildwood, New Jersey. Have you ever been to this park? Do you agree with what I said? Make sure to put all those thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to show your appreciation by leaving a like so we can beat the YouTube algorithm. If you've been enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe as well. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.